So don't mess with our dinner.
Right? Yeah, that's right. So I wanted to have a karate school.
Welcome everybody. We are the Unplugged Griffith Business Student Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Ju.
My name is Victor.
And we have an amazing guest. We have Professor Ruth McPhail with us today to share a bit about Griffith Business School, but also about her role as a Dean of Engagement. So, welcome.
Thank you. Hey, good morning, Ju. Good morning, Victor.
Morning.
So, first of all, I guess not many students know about your position, know about what the Dean of Engagement actually do and what kind of role that actually means. So could you share a little bit more about what that role is and what you do at Griffith Business School?
Sure, thank you. It's a great question. It's a fair one because I think as students you come in and you're really interested in the things that kind of affect you immediately, the people that you see and deal with on a daily basis. And a university is a massive organisation. It's a big place with thousands of employees. And many thousands of students. So in those thousands of employees, there's a big business piece to universities as well in making sure that students get what they need, and we do the certain things that we need to do as a university. And one of those things is around engagement. So a traditional academics role is made up of what we call research, where we're looking at things of interest and creating new knowledge. Our teaching practice, which is where you guys get to see us and we get to see you, and we spend a lot of our time together. And hopefully the first and the second things kind of intermix in the sense that we bring some of what we do in regards to research into the classroom so that you've got some experiences of what we're finding out there in terms of new knowledge. But the other part, which is quite a small part, but it's an important part of what we do, is service. And as a civic university, as a place that is for the community and by the community, we have a portion of our role which we are expected as academics to give back in service, or to give in service and engagement. And so my role as the Dean of Engagement is to kind of oversee that small part of the role of what academics do and what a university does. And it's a role that can be defined in different ways, but in its most simplest form, it's around the pre-engagement with the university, as well as helping academics to manage the engagement part of their portfolio throughout the period of time that they're with us. But it's also about the outcomes for students as well. So we're looking at the feed, so the schools area, the areas where students are coming in as mature age students or pathway students. So how do we support people to come into university, and then also how to be successful once they get here. So that transition piece, and I'm sure that many of your listeners will be, painfully remembering back to what it was like
100%.
Your first day at uni, right? And how the small things were the things that made you stick it out, right? And made you successful. And a lot of that comes from within, but some of that comes from outside as well. And so what does the university do around prepping you up and getting you ready to come into the university? And then the university kind of picks up the bit when you're here. And then my role kind of also steps in a little bit after you're on your way out into the world of work and once you're out there. So we also provide then executive education and professional development. And we also do that for our alumni. So this year, for example, we led a big program called LEAD, where last year we saw students come through, around 400 students graduated who are alumni on leading, great, Victor, you won. Okay, so leading for impact, right? So understanding how your ongoing development is a lifelong journey, and so we stick with you through that. So I guess if you look at it as the pre-university and then the post-university experience, that's generally where we sit with engagement, but also things like partnerships, executive education, any professional development needs, pathways, schools, all of those kinds of things fall into our portfolio. So you probably don't see as much of us when you're actually in your on-campus period of time. You see us before and you see us after, but we're always there.
Just behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, awesome.
I guess talking about alumni engagement, Victor, so you obviously graduated economics and finance.
Yeah.
So, like, how did you feel coming into Griffith Business School at the start? Now that you've gone through a whole process of starting to a finish, how do you find your engagement like?
I think there are some initiatives whilst during the school. So first off, I came to Griffith originally because I got an early offer.
Yeah.
I was originally going to go to another university. I didn't get it. The offer Griffith provided me. So yeah, it's just a good choice to have that security. So I guess engagement might start from there, already capturing students early on.
And there's something that I realize as a student right now is like being in Griffith Business School Student Leadership Program, as well as being involved in those events that as a student was something that I noticed was really supported, and something that I really appreciated that Griffith Business School does well is all those events and networking that you guys do as a whole department. And I guess one thing what effort do you think goes on in the back of house, back behind the scene of how that process goes with, you said, external partnership, as well as internal as well with alumni and schools and students. So could you take us through a process in which when you actually maintain that relationship and you start with that relationship, how do you go about that situation?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. It's an interesting one. I'll answer that question and then I'll give you another answer.
Yeah.
So it can begin from very early on. As early as grade 7 for some students, they'll come into contact with Griffith. And through exposure programs or programs where we have contact or community outreach, those types of programs. It gets a little bit more serious once we get into our schools program where we've got our ambassadors. So our year 9s, 10s and 11s come on and they have some different kinds of experiential learning, and we begin to show them that in fact university is something that they can absolutely aspire to take on, and that Griffith is a really unique university. We do things differently, and it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish, and that's really our commitment and our social justice agenda. So the year 12s also come into the schools program, but we also have professional development with teachers. So it can begin from as early as, primary school, that relationship. And then where does it end? Well, it doesn't. So once you kind of engage and you've graduated and you become a part of our alumni, we absolutely maintain a contact with you and a relationship with you and an interest in you, a really genuine interest in your careers, and your successes are our successes. And that follows you forever and ever for the rest 100%. Of your career. We'll be with you.
Yeah, I guess like I noticed as a student, like being involved in a lot of external activities and extracurricular activities, like Griffith definitely is there. Because the traditional events are always happening, and then there are at Griffith Business School as a business is about alumni engagement, about the partners, and I love that about Griffith for now, where like being involved in so many different things, there are actually so many avenues that you can involve yourself with. So like, I guess you mentioned the program the LEAD program. So can you go a little bit more elaborate on how that program looks like and how it actually started? That'll be interesting.
So LEAD is around self-development and self-leadership. So looking at folks who have gone out and graduated from university, which often we do, and then find ourselves all of a sudden in kind of a leadership role with not necessarily the skills or the experience to kind of handle that. And that's not always something that can be taught to you until you're ready to learn, if that makes sense. Grasshopper, it sounds very philosophical, doesn't it? But it is kind of the thing that it's sometimes you can't learn some things until you really, really need to learn them. And one of those things is around emotional intelligence. So we spend a lot of time in that course really talking about leaders and how they regulate emotions and how they influence and how they support people. But at the centre of it all, it comes back to just, fair, equal treatment of people, which I think is what Griffith really stands for and what we try and get our graduates to make sure we're putting people before profit. It's that follow through relationship to keep reinforcing that, yeah, you're on the right path, but remember that leadership is really about putting people first. And as I said, that relationship goes on forever and ever. And it's interesting because that emotional intelligence piece and the leadership area is something that has been of interest to me all of my career, and certainly a lot of my career at Griffith, and as has been student engagement, student retention, student welfare. And in some of my previous roles as program director and first year advisor and all sorts of things over the many years I've been here, I've seen some of the exceptional, really world leading, first class, and in fact national citation receiving work that we've done around how do we cut through and help students succeed. And that's the bottom line. How do we get you to be successful? And that game doesn't change whether it's before you come to uni. So if I have to sit with you and say, hey, look, honestly, what you're telling me means that you're probably better off doing a TAFE course, I'm going to tell you that, right? Because I don't want to see you wasting your time, your money, your talent, and putting a psychological scar on yourself that says, I went to uni but I didn't succeed. Well, no, you went to uni but you made the wrong choice. You should have gone to TAFE because you wanted to be an electrician, right? So that's where you should have gone. So it means sometimes having to make some of those tougher calls in the earlier parts, but I think what we do is we put people first. So our job is to see you succeed, whether it's with us or whether it's somewhere else, it doesn't matter. The point is that you become successful and make a contribution.
Yeah. Ruth, what would you, there's a lot of people in this position where they're finishing high school or they're going into year 12 and they don't know what they want to do. They don't know if they're going to do TAFE, if they're going to do uni, they want to go straight into the workforce. So what is the approach that you yourself or Griffith has to those students in that position?
It's a great question. And look, I wasn't far off being in that position myself when I left school. When I left high school, I was right into karate. I was into martial arts, and I wanted to run karate schools.
So don't mess with our dinner invitation.
Right? Yeah, that's right. So I wanted to have a karate school, and that was my big career aspiration. You know, my parents very wisely said to me, "Hey, look, you know, that's great, but you're going to have to get a degree first. Okay. And once you've got a degree that gives you a job that will give you money for the rest of your life, then you can have your karate school." So I thought, okay, righto. So off I went, and I thought, what's my next great passion? And my next great passion, I really thought, was around teaching, because for me, teaching, I saw the influence that teachers had on me, and I think that's quite a strong impact when you're of that age. And so I went off to sort of become a teacher. So I became a high school teacher, and I did a Bachelor of Education. And so that commitment to education and interest in education and the influence that education can have on people and the power of education, I think is something that genuinely comes through. After I left, I went into teaching, and I was in my holidays, my school holidays, which, as you would know, are long, and it's great, except if you're a casual teacher, then you get no pay, right? Oh, yeah. So I had this break in my school holidays, and I thought, what am I going to do? And I had to pay the rent, and my flatmate said, hey, look, come along to the Hilton. You could get a job at the Hilton. I work at the Hilton. I thought, great, you know, I've got this degree. Yeah. They're going to make me like, I don't know, the general manager or something. Yeah. God, I've got a degree, right? Every door's going to open now. Ching. Anyway, I walked in and I went to the HR lady's office, and the HR lady had flowers on her desk and a secretary, and I thought, I want to be the HR lady, so I might ask about getting into her job. Anyway, I really thought I had it made, right? Well, like, I just thought I'd just like slide on in there, right? But I met this woman. I thought, wow, HR, this is fabulous. You know, that she's got this influence, and she can make these decisions, and she's got she can give people opportunities. And I thought, wow, this is almost just as good as teaching. I'll have the HR job. Anyway, I got the job cleaning ashtrays, right?
Okay, wow. A bit different than what you expected.
It was a bit different, right? But man, I had some clean ashtrays, right? So, and this was a long time ago, folks, so there was a lot more smoking going on back then, right? Let me just point that out there. And I just applied a good work ethic
Yeah.
to the job, and I thought,
Yeah.
right, I'm just going to be the best I can be, and I became the best ashtray cleaner, and then I kind of moved into the bar, and then I became the nightclub manager, you know, and so on and so forth, and then my career kind of took a different change. So I came out of education, and then sort of moved into
The hospo.
a hospitality school. So I was
Yeah.
working in a hospitality school then because I was such good person in hospitality,
Yeah.
right? They said, I got approached by someone in a hospitality school
Yeah.
who said, we need someone who has a degree but also who has education.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Has an education degree, right? I'm like,
my
oh,
gosh.
this is me, right?
Feels
I have
like
a
a
degree
glove,
and I have
yeah.
some experience in hospitality. So I got a job writing their curriculum for their degrees.
Yeah.
And that was great. And then I thought, I'm going to do a master's. So I just decided I'd start a master's degree. And I thought, HR, I never forgot that woman, right, at the Hilton. And I wanted her job. And I went back and I did my master's in HR and I got it eventually. But in a bit of a hippie crisis, I moved to far north Queensland just before my
Hippie crisis.
master's was
Yeah,
due. Yeah, hippie crisis. You've got to have a couple of them in your life.
Yeah.
And then got my master's degree, and then a week after my second son was born, I decided to enroll in a PhD. I always wanted to crack that chestnut. Like, that was the big one for me. Like, I thought, right, I'm on this roll now. I really want to get this degree.
When did that become your goal to get a PhD?
I think it was always my goal. My dad had one, and I just kind of always aspired to be, you know,
be a little bit better.
a little bit, a little
I
bit
mean,
better.
what it sounds like is I also have researched a few of your colleagues and asked around on your art career.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Please
So,
tell us about your art career.
Yeah, well, I was a high school art teacher, so
Yeah.
that's where the art comes in. So, yeah, I've always been an artist and involved in arts and art societies and things like that. But I guess my point is that, you know, if you'd asked me in year 12, what do you want to be? I'd have said to you, I want to be a karate instructor, right? Dead set. That's what I want to do. Well, how far am I sitting from you right now as being a karate instructor, right? A very long way away. So my advice to you would be, look, you're going to have lots of jobs, but you're going to have one career. And that one career is going to follow you around. And the reason why I mention my ashtrays is because my ashtrays are a part of my story. They're as much a part of my learning and growing on how to be a team player and how to be a leader and how to have a work ethic and how to turn up and do stuff you don't want to do and still do it really, really well. That was all part of my story. So you don't have to know the answer to your story. I didn't know that I'd be sitting here if you asked me that in year 12. You don't need to know the answer, but what you need to know is what's important to you. What are your values? What are the things that you want to make a contribution around? And for me, it was around teaching. And somehow, all the way through these various roles that I've had, it comes back to education and it comes back to teaching. And that's sort of fundamentally. So even if you have kind of a gut feeling of this is kind of a place that makes me excited, then that's the direction you should head. Now, what do we do as a university, in answer to your question, is that we set it up so that your first year, and many of your listeners will be through first year or have gone through first year, where you get to see a whole range of things, right? So we try and expose you to as much as we can. Now, that drives the accounting students nuts, can I just say? Sorry, accounting students out there, but I'm just going to tell you, you guys come in and you are like born to be, right? You're like, this is what I want to do and this is all I'm ever going to be. And you are, and I admire that. It's a fabulous gift. But for the rest of us, we don't have it, right? So we got to go out there and play around in the paddock to figure out what it is we want to be.
Is that one of the reasons why the Bachelor of Business, in your first year, you go through a lot of... It's very broad, and then you niche into your...
I mean, for example, economics. It's one of those areas that many students in Australian high schools will not have been exposed to a large degree. Some students come here and do it for the first time in their first year and go, wow, I love it. That's what I want to do. I didn't know about it. And that's why we give you that breadth, so that you can pick and choose.
Yeah. Throughout your career, you keep coming back to this concept of you wanted to be the best at the position, even if it's cleaning ashtrays. What role does grit have to do with someone's success and, I don't know.
Because you got to have passion to be in a role that you are in right now.
Yeah.
And I can see throughout your career, your one career across a lot of different roles is like you had a lot of drive for searching for something. So I guess that search have, I guess, led to where you are now, and you briefly talked about your work ethic and how it transitioned. So can you talk us through the milestone for your personal goal of actually going through that transition in terms of like what made you grow? Like what kind of, you said you had a person who made you grow. So what kind of situation that did you find yourself along your journey was a key milestone for you?
They're both interesting questions. Your point about grit, Victor, and yours about growing. Grit and grow, they almost go together.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the adversity, it's the failure that gives you the growth. It's the painful reality of life, guys. I'm sorry, but if it was all sunshine and rainbows, right, we'd all just be really lazy. So it's those moments where you don't achieve what you'd aspired to do. The one that gets me my Achilles heel is when that has to do with people. I don't mind projects that fail. I don't mind innovations that fail. That's all part of innovating, right? You have to get used to failure.
Yeah.
But when you fail someone as a person, that's really not very forgivable in my book. You must be vigilant in your relationships. They're fragile. They're important. They speak a lot to you as a person, and the value of your handshake is what I would say to that. So it's in the adversity and it's in the failure, but it's when it comes to the people failure that you need to be most vigilant around where's the recovery. Okay, so you've made a mistake. You've done the wrong thing by somebody, or you've said the wrong thing by somebody, or you haven't delivered for somebody. You need to be accountable. And I think learning to be accountable is a part of that grit piece. When you're able to sort of really comfortably sit in your skin and go, wow, I'm sorry. That didn't go the way I had hoped, or we didn't reach the outcome we had set out to achieve. Let's make a really concerted effort to do that better, or do that differently, or let's work on this together. I think that's when you start to feel more comfortable in your skin, and it is a reality that it comes with maturity. So if you're one of those, I mean, I remember when I first used to go to meetings when I was a junior sort of executive, and I couldn't even eat lunch at the table with people. I was so nervous and so scared. I don't think I could swallow. I thought I was going to choke and die, you know. But you do get more comfortable, right? You just do. So take a deep breath and relax. This is a journey. It's not a destination, and you're going to get more and more comfortable and more confident as you go. And, you know, and we're here with you for the journey.
I guess this is for the students who, I mean, to encourage like this new generation that's coming to the university education, is like there's that reality of that anxiety, that not knowing what's going to happen, the relationship that you briefly mentioned, is growingly anxiety driven. And I guess that's the encouragement for all of us as a student, is to be aware of that that is a reality, and that is how we should challenge ourselves to know that it's okay. Eventually, it's okay to just go through that emotion, go through that journey, and then do the best you can with the people that you already surround yourself with.
It's all you got to do. You just have to do your best. If you have a job, you have to do it 110%. You know, don't just go for get it done. Go for do it to the absolute best of your ability. But yeah, absolutely. And as I said, breathe and relax, because confidence kills anxiety, right? Work on your confidence, focus on your confidence and building your confidence, and know that you've got plenty of people backing you. And I mean, that's one of the beauties of Griffith. I think we are, in a sense, like a family, and you don't want to pick on one of us, right? Because we're all going to have your back, right? So we really do have a support and a network and a community that starts to grow around you. But that's a two-way thing, right? You've got to put your hand out as a student and say, hey, this is me, this is who I am, and this is what I come with, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, these are the things I need help with, these are the things I need your support for.
And touching on what Ju's mentioning about like this new generation of students and people, young folks coming through uni, what has changed recently from, do you feel anything has changed from students a couple of years ago, and the way you your role as engagement person has your responsibilities before and now. Like, has anything changed in the way you interact with students?
Look, if you go back to when I first started working at Griffith, right? We had just got computers.
Yeah.
We used to put the list of, I had 1,200 students in my first year class.
Wow.
Right? 1,200. I did 4 repeat lectures of 350 students a week.
And they didn't have online recordings back then too. So
Okay.
there was proper grinding.
Let me take you somewhere, right? This is back to the land when times when people used to smoke, right?
Yeah.
So bear with me here. 1,200 names on my door with your marks. So you'd see your name and your mark. Can you imagine doing that in this day and age? No way, right? But it's what happened. And then a box full of 1,200 assignments that I would have lovingly marked for you to come collect outside my door. There were no PowerPoints. There was no online get onto your course. There was no nothing. There was you got your course outline and you turned up to class with your textbook, and that's how it was. So that was the difference. There were pros and cons. There are pros and cons to everything and in every situation and every point that we have. There is a part of me that misses those times where it was we were slightly more connected and learning was, I think, slightly more, I'd say authentic, but but I don't, that's not the right word, but it was kind of more, it was more rudimentary. It was more basic because we're just fundamentally checking your knowledge in a face-to-face kind of aspect. Technology has been the thing, seriously, and I mean, that's a dead set basic answer, isn't it? That is the thing that has fundamentally changed everything we do. But back then, I remember when we first sort of started moving into we got told we had to have PowerPoints. You know, we used to play this game of the missing word on the PowerPoints. You know, so we'd put up to make the students come because they stopped coming.
Wow.
So as soon as the PowerPoints were available, the students stopped coming to class. So we'd put missing words on the PowerPoint and see if that would bring them in. And, you know, we'd play all sorts of games.
Hey, if it works, it works.
It does. But look, the times have changed to the point now where really it's learning anywhere, anytime. And our job is to support you where and when that might be. So the pro now is that the catchment of students and the availability of learning for students is much broader church, right? Because everybody can be in it now, not just the people that can be here at Wednesday at 9 a.m. for lecture, right? So everybody gets an opportunity to learn. There's pros and cons. I wouldn't go back and change it. It is what it is, and we deal with, and I think really well as a university, the technological changes, and we've been really on the forefront of how we can bring cutting edge learning and teaching. Because at the end of the day, again, bottom line, doesn't matter how you do it as long as you guys go out there and be successful. And whatever success that means to you, can I add? You know, success, and the word I keep repeating, it sort of sounds a bit shiny and bright. But that could be you running a not-for-profit, purely social service, social justice, you know, entrepreneurial type role, organisation that you set up, or it could be that you're working in a welfare service role in government, or it could be that you're a billionaire. It doesn't matter. It's what you set it as, and that's what matters.
That's right. So I guess now looking into success. So you mentioned success measures quite differently to a lot of people, to many people. Do you feel like you have succeeded?
Yeah, I do.
Could you tell us how you feel now that you have an amazing career and history of transitioning and going into your position now? Can you tell us more? Like, how do you feel?
I feel great, but I feel great because I've got chickens in my backyard. You know, that to me that's succce, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
my chickens are not laying at the moment, and this is a point in time recording, but there is an egg shortage right now in Australia. So for anyone who's listening at this point in time,
golden eggs.
you understand this is an important topic. But yeah, you know, that makes me happy, and I think I'm happier now that I've got that being comfortable in your own skin age and stage. It's tough coming through and being driven and continuing to drive and keeping up your good work and your ethics, your work ethic as well as your personal ethics. It's hard being a good leader. It's so much easier to not be. It's hard to be all the things that are good, right?
Mm.
But that hard work is the thing that gives you the satisfaction. So, you know, am I successful? Yeah, you know, absolutely, I feel successful. Have I reached the end of what that success looks like? Nah, there's more chickens, right, out there.
So how do you see us? I mean, I've been to a few interviews, job interviews before, and my employers, well, potential employers, used to ask me, yeah, what does your 5-year plan looks like? And I used to think that was a really tough question to answer, but also like, how can I answer that?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Look, let me jump in on that, and I'm gonna really upset the apple cart here, and I'm gonna tell you something that you must do. If there's one thing you do as a result of this podcast, please do this. Write a 30-year plan. Write a 30-year plan. And it, to your point, you may not know what it is you want to do, but just out there wildly put some things down, right? And if you're moving it, so I wrote a 30-year plan 30 years ago, and on that plan was things like get a PhD, write a book, publish a book, have a book at the airport was a really big thing for me, right?
Key metric.
Get off at Sydney Airport and
Yeah,
see my name on a book.
Yeah.
Okay, true story.
That's awesome.
Doesn't matter what your goals are. 5 chickens in the backyard, 2 horses and a pig, whatever. Write down what your 30-year plan is, right?
Yeah.
Because time will come and go.
Yeah.
Time will come and go before you can blink. You'll be sitting at the other end of your career, or nearing, you know, the end of your career, or the crescendo of your career, I should say. The highlight of it is what you hope to have at the end. And you want to make sure you've ticked off those boxes. So sit down and write a 30-year plan, and include your personal aspirations in that too. If it's, I want to save for a house, and I want to buy a unit, or I want to travel overseas, or whatever it is, write the 30-year plan. You will be astounded. I still have my 30-year plan. You'll be astounded how much of it you can actually make come true, and how much you look back and you go, wow.
All right, we're on this after this.
Yeah, we're going to be here
writing our 30-year plan straight away.
I'd like to think I'm a bit detail-oriented. So would you break it down?
Aha, okay, all right.
Would you,
how would you
the secret of the 30-year plan. Okay. How detailed do you get?
Give us the formula.
Okay. So mine is really years, and so I write the year.
Yep.
So 2025, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. For me, 32 says retire.
Okay.
For you, it says something else, right? Yep. Now, you go back 30 years in my calendar and it says a whole lot, right? Where you guys have got to pick it up. And generally, what I just have is kind of, in that year, what would I want to be achieving? So, for example, at universities, and depending on the career you go into, you know, here we have promotions from what we call associate professor all the way to professor. So that was on my list, my career list, obviously, once I came
Which
here.
is a huge milestone.
It's a big thing. Yeah, it's a 20-year job,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you don't have a 30-year plan and you've got a 20-year job, you've got a problem, right? You don't really have a map. And one of the other things about that map it provides you is that within each of our promotion sections, so say from associate professor to full professor, each of the stories that we tell have to be slightly unique. And so what is it that I'm doing in this period of my life that contributes to the university? But what I do also is I have another section to that plan, which is my personal goals. So making sure that there's a balance, right? So am I on target? You don't have to, you could get a razor out and rub it out if it didn't work out. You didn't have 3 kids in that year, you know, you can scratch that and write some new plan. It's flexible. It's, you know, no one's going to hold your feet to the fire, but it's going to make you actually stop and look at it and go, wow, in 2032, I'm going to be, and put your age next to it. I'm going to be, I won't tell you what I'm going to be in 2032 because that's a trick. Right? Yeah, I'm onto you. Right, it's a trick. But you put your year, you put your age next to the year. All right, so you can start to actually see this is your life. This isn't just your career. This is your life. What do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with it? The choice is yours.
What I want to really say to our listeners and our students is, I guess this is a time where sell engagement. How do we sell engagement to our students, to people who are not sure how to engage, what to engage?
Okay.
So what's the next for engagement? How could students look forward to being involved?
Yeah, okay. So now we kind of bring the lens right back to the on-campus, in-curriculum, your kind of life, right? So the student journey. So let's just focus in on that as opposed to my role and the bigger 30-year picture, right? Let's just focus on the very short 3 years or 4 years or whatever you're going to be here for, which is tiny, right? When I say put the 30-year plan out there, then you look at it and you go, wow.
Yeah.
Just when you get into 25 and go, oh, how am I going to survive? This is the longest year. No. Put it in the 30-year plan. Now it looks like a blip, right?
Yeah.
Right. So in the part of the journey in terms of engagement for you really begins right at the beginning, right? Now, your listeners are well and truly into this, but I don't know how to stress the importance of orientation enough, right? And understanding that sense of connection to place is so critically important, and your peers. Getting to know your mates, your friends that will be lifelong friends, and also our international colleagues, right, and students. So you're going to, I say to my first years, plan your holiday. Look at who's in the room, right? Like the connections and networks will go on for life. And so I can only sell it. I don't really kind of want to sell engagement, but I want to give you some facts to consider.
Yep.
So we know, for example, students that attend past sessions on average receive a grade point higher than students that don't do pass, right? Pretty simple. We know students that know the phone number of one person by the end of their first week at university are more likely to be retained and complete their degree than students that don't.
Wow.
That's a crazy statistic.
Students, go out there, ask for numbers, right? I'm giving you permission, right? This is the thing. You say this is for my safety. So, engagement can be as small as, g'day, how are you? What program are you doing? Hey, I'm new. Do you want to swap numbers? Whatever you do these days.
Snap.
Friends on Facebook or whatever.
Like that.
I don't know. And just connect, right? It's awkward and awful. Like, I remember it like with this wave of dread over me that I'm such an incredibly shy person that going to university was torturous for me. And I really only had a couple of friends, but they're still my friends. And they totally got me through my undergraduate degree. So connect. So when I say engage, I say do this for yourself, for your own investment. And also take time to think about what sort of student do you want to be. Create your own student identity. Do you want to be the guys that run the podcast, right?
That's right. We're looking for people
who lead the way, right? The people who get out there and actually, get totally involved in community.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be the student like I was who just literally knew where university was and just got a pass all the way through? And that was my big achievement, right? Because that really was, right? Because that was a stretch for me. Just doing that was enough. And if that's enough for you, that's okay. The point is that you succeed, right? We want you to succeed. Succeeding, when I talk about getting a degree, means get your degree. Get it.
Yeah.
Graduate, right? That is your success.
Yeah.
Do that. And I will be there so very happily clapping loudly on the stage as you cross. And I'll be checking out your shoes.
That's
Just
right.
tips there for undergrads.
Yeah, that's right.
Shoes are important on graduation day.
Hey, that's a good thing to note. I will be graduating at the end of this year.
Well,
so.
please note, we take great attention to your shoes.
You're going to send Ruth an email and then ask which type of shoe
Yeah.
I guess so.
Oh,
We'll share notes now.
We do judge you on your shoes. I'm just going to tell you that, students, all right? So, yeah.
Well, I think this was an amazing opportunity for us to really get to know you and have a room where alumni and students can ask you direct questions on, I guess, our future of like being in university and how that might look like to all of our students. And thank you so much for your time, sharing your journey and sharing what engagement is all about. And I think that was really a fresh outlook on how we can view engagement and how it is very important for our learning journey and to grow ourselves. So thank you Professor Ruth.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Best of luck with your fabulous career out there, Victor, and I look forward to seeing your shoes at graduation soon.
I'll make sure it's clean.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.